Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of our viewers. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to my guest once again, brother Professor Bashir Ahmad Shah. How are you, brother Bashir?
Walaikum salam and alhamdulillah, doing amazing, feeling amazing, and just hanging out.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So we have brother Bashir on for session 2, and inshallah we'll have him on for session 3. I'm getting to know brother Bashir more, and I'm liking this relationship more and more. The first podcast I had him on was a little bit more, a little bit more serious. I was still like, I don't want to scare the man off. He's been on one podcast, just he's made intentions for the second one, but let me try to keep it a little bit professional. But over the course of the week, we've been talking, and there was a very big event that happened in the Ahmadiyya movement and the community this past weekend. It's called Jalsa Salana, which is uh, if you can equate it somewhat like a Scientology getaway. So they had a getaway. They did it in Pennsylvania, right? Pennsylvania, right?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Actually, you know what? There was a guy. He used to live here, and he used to work at a gas station for one of the guys we knew as a Sunni guy, and he used to come to the masjid at first with them, and then he stopped coming to the masjid once they had a business deal that went wrong, and he was just an employee, and we met his employer, and that guy was a Qadiani. We knew that. We could just tell. And
Yeah.
then we figured out this guy was a Qadiani. Really, really nice guy. I'm not going to lie to you. He was a very nice guy. He's like, the reason I'm here is to stay away from my family over there. And we live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I never realized that. And then later on, we figured out, I think they have a big community or something like that over there, right?
That I don't remember, but there's a convention center there that they've been using
Okay.
for their we call it
Jalsa
Tenma
Salana.
Fest, a Chura Mela, whatever.
So, as Brother Bashir informed me, they call it what? Zilli Hajj.
Zilli Hajj.
Zilli Hajj. And I called it a Zalili Hajj, for the Zalil people.
Yeah.
So we spoke about a little bit about Jalsa Salana, but inshallah that's next week because I got to watch a few more videos. I was watching it this morning after Bashir told me last night that there's a such thing as a Jalsa Salana. I'm like, what the heck is this thing? And I'm watching this and I'm listening to this guy, and he's talking about their guy Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and he's giving these names, and I'm like these are like we love and revere Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but we don't give such titles to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam even because at the end of the day the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a human Nabi. He wasn't some sort of a creation beyond human beings. And these guys are like revering Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and I'm like, what is going on? And then they're talking about Guru Nanak and Krishna and Vishnu and stuff like that. And I forget what the guy's name was. He was one of
Socrates. Oh, yeah.
what is that?
No, they also mentioned Socrates. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So me and Brother Bashir were talking earlier today, and we were talking about Nabis, and all of a sudden Brother Bashir throws this out. They said that Socrates is a prophet as well. I was like, yo, bro, you gotta stop. I think you're joking at this point. He's like, no, I'm serious about this. So tell us about the prophets. What how does prophethood work? I've heard, and I think our discussion last week we were talking about how in Ahmadiyya prophethood can sort of be earned as well. You can buy it. Um, those are my words, not Bashir's words. But it sort of seems like you can buy it, and the title of this week's podcast, sort of plays into the way Mirza Ghulam Ahmad died, and sort of the history. It's murky and gunky at best. So tell us about prophethood. Like what is this?
Yeah. It's real complicated because they're never going to give you a straight answer. They'll even say a hatam doesn't mean last, but then they'll say in terms of law bearing prophets it means last. Well,
Okay,
well, then you just argued with me for 2 hours that it doesn't mean last. But at
that's
the end
very
of the
interesting.
argument, you say, "Oh, in terms of law bearing, it does mean last." So then we'll say, "Okay, but there's no such thing in the Quran and the Hadith. It doesn't exist. There's no zilli, baruzi, law bearing. You're either Nabi or Rasool." That those are the two categories, and you can't be a Rasul without being a Nabi.
Yeah.
So, and there's very few Rasuls. In fact, there's maybe 10 or 12, maybe off the top of my head. I don't exactly.
I think it's normally said that there's four Rasuls, and what's it called? Like who got big books. There were other Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam who got sahifas. And when you said that to be a Rasul, you have to be a Nabi, it took me flashback to when I was like 7 and we were learning that stuff. And then another flashback to when we were teaching the kids at the masjid that to be a Nabi, to be a Rasul, you have to be a Nabi. And a Nabi is not always a Rasul. So,
Right.
it made me do a flashback to that. But go on, keep on going.
Yeah, and Ahmadis believe that Nabi equals Rasul and vice versa.
Okay.
And they found scant opinions in Islamic literature where some people might have said the same thing. Um, but there's a famous verse that in the Quran where I don't remember the verse, but Allah says He never sent a Rasul except in the language of the local people.
Yeah.
So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad didn't get any revelations in Punjabi, maybe one or two, and he's in the Punjab, and he didn't even give dawah to the Sikhs. He wrote one book, and then in that book he says, "Oh yeah, Baba Nanak's a Muslim, and I'm the second coming." So they're not impressed by any of that. In fact, I know hella Sikhs. I grew up around Sikhs, especially in California.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot
And
of
I'm
them out there.
Punjabi, so we see them, we say Qadian, and we talk smack. But
What ki
yeah,
haal hai?
ki haal hai bhai ji, paji, and um, so yeah, I know them dudes, and since there's a separation, we know who they are, they know who we are. It's all love and respect. But as far as the prophet goes, remember they don't even allow Ahmadis to claim prophethood at this
Mm,
point. Only their Khalifa could ever be a prophet. They
mm,
they say their Khilafat will last forever.
mm-hmm.
So they don't even believe that prophethood is continuous. So it's
So,
all
so, so
yeah.
one of the things, obviously, I'm not trying to. I want next week to be about Jalsa Salana, but one of the things which I heard from Jalsa Salana, there was two things which they focused on at the from this guy's speech. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm gonna take a look at it in a second. But he was like, first thing he was talking about the Lahoris and Lauria, and he's like, oh, we called them to find out whether they have Jummah, and this was just like petty stuff. He's like, we called to find out whether they have Jummah so we can go pray Jummah there, and they weren't gonna go pray with the Lahoris. That
Yeah.
was, that was the truth. But he's like, oh, we called and we find out that they don't actually have Jummah over here in the masjid. They just have it online. And I'm like, most of your khatabs are online with your sheikh or whatever you guys call him, your Khalifa. Anyway,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, their Khalifa actually videoed into their conference and gave a speech as well. You probably know that better than I do. But
Yeah.
just so then he was like, oh, the other group, they don't have khilafat. We have khilafat, and I'm like, okay. I was like, you do realize one of the other sharait of
Of Khilafat
brother
is to
brother
have a government. There's no such Khilafat which doesn't have a government. What
well,
kind of
not only
Khilafat?
that, they have separation of church and state, and then that's one of the things which I sent you today, that the Khalifa said that there's separation of church and state. What's the purpose of the khilafat then? Just like a
Well, what's the purpose of the deen,
ceremonial.
brother? The deen is it's together. The
Yeah,
government, there's no separate because it's the same thing. Islam is a lifestyle. It's not,
yeah.
so in a but so once again, it's all a lie. If the Ahmadiyya movement ever had their own government, they would they would burn the hypocrites. They would, oh, come on. Come on. So it's all a business ploy. It's like BP saying, "Hey, after our oil spill, we cleaned the environment and gave people money."
Oh, so the guy who was talking, who I listened to, was Fahim Yunus Qureshi.
Oh yeah,
So Fahim Bhai was an interesting guy.
yeah. He's been their main guy for over 20 years. He's like a disease specialist,
But
and
he
he's
can't.
been giving
But he
people.
can't take care of the disease of Ahmadiyyat though, for some
He
reason.
can't. He can't. He's in love with the Mirza family. He even said something like he switched to Urdu. So remember, anytime they want to say something controversial, they'll switch to Urdu.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that.
So I'm telling you, these guys have been doing this for so long. Jalasazi is another word for it. It's just fraud. Do numbering. Go up there and tell them this. Oh, and if you need to say something crazy, say it in switch languages, and we're good. I bet you it's a policy. It's
So
something that they've been told to do.
so
So
So there's a brother. He's saying the Ahmadi Khilafat seems to be more similar to the concept of the Imamate in Shiism.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know enough about Shia and Imamate. I'll tell you one thing. I have been studying the rise of Shiaism, and I'll tell you, until the Russians were on their border, they
Yeah,
never had a government.
yeah,
And I haven't figured that out yet as to how would this Shiaism, because in Islam you had the different empires, they were all Sunni. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I can't remember like a Shia before Iran, before Persia switched overnight. Uh, and I'll tell you something funny. They had something called Shia Sufism. I didn't know that's different from Sunni Sufism, but
Mm.
apparently Sufism in Shia Islam is a thing. And the guy that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said died in Hanyar Street, Srinagar, that he claims is Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
Yusuf. There's another guy buried in his tomb, Sayyid Nasiruddin, who was a Shia Sufi. He's like the grandson of like the seventh Imam or something like that. And we were like, well, why is he buried there? You know what I mean? Because it was from an era where Shiaism had made it into Kashmir, it had made it
Mm.
into India. It made it. I think Bahrain, is it Bahrain, which is majority Shia?
Yeah,
Um,
Bahrain is, yeah.
so it was spreading, you know, in different areas. So could it be like that? Yeah, it's a mix. Sufism, Shiism, put it in a bowl, put some alcohol in it, burn it, then you got Ahmadiyas.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So what's it called? So one of the questions is, because once I started reading on their website, the Al Islam website, it's like Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is the second coming of Guru Nanak. He's the second coming of anybody and everybody. Obviously, Baha'i and everybody. So the question is, what is he? Is he a Mujaddid? Is he a prophet? Is he a Mahdi? Is he actually Jesus? I mean, like, what kind of a what, where do they draw the line, or where don't they draw the line? Like, what is he and when is he not? He's
There's
he's
a
just
there,
some demented guy from Punjab. I understand that, who never wanted to. Well, he was dead by that point in time. But there was a very famous scholar by the name of Ataullah Shah Bukhari, rahmatullah alayh, who used to love going to Qadian and challenge them, and they really didn't want to talk with him much.
you know, he got the death penalty for messing with them.
I don't
and
doubt it.
and he said, he was like, go ahead and kill him. The British government gave him the death penalty, and then he got out of it, and he was ready to die. And
Yeah.
it was all for disturbing the peace or something like that. Here, let me pull up my work on him.
Oh, so Irfanis are what are the Shia Sufis? I didn't know that. One of the brothers he sent that. I was like, what are you talking about? What is it, Irfani? He's like, that's a Shia Sufi.
Okay, yeah. I haven't studied them enough, but I know somehow there's a connection with Yuz Asif and a Shia Sufi being buried in the same house as him, and it's like,
Mm,
why is he there? You know what I
mm.
mean? Why would this guy, other guy, be buried here? So, um, yeah, brother. And there's a lot of things I'm trying to learn. So that's one of them.
I mean, you're focused on Ahmadiyya, and you're learning a lot about that too, I guess.
Brother, I learned all about West Africa, the
Yeah,
Islamic development, how Islam developed in West Africa, East Africa, totally different. West Africa was Maliki,
yeah,
East Africa was Shafi, Indonesia was Shafi,
yeah.
um, and I learned all this because I've written like a history report on Ahmadiyya in over 70 countries. And
Mm,
as part of the research, I had to research, well, what version of Islam is being practiced there. So in West Africa, the Malikis pray with their hands straight down.
yeah,
So they had issues with Ahmadis because Ahmadis were Hanafi.
yeah.
So you could tell something was wrong here. So in the course of my research, I went to learn one thing, but I ended up learning 10 other things in the process. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
I was listening. The last guy I was trying to listen to, I didn't get around to it. Was Sahib Zada Mirza Maghfur Ahmad.
Saib Zada.
Yeah.
That's the Khalifa's brother.
Oh, is he? Acha, it says he's the Ameer of the Jamaat in USA. He's wearing a nice suit and tie.
Yeah, and something's wrong with him. If you look up his profile, they say he's a surgeon, but it's like a fake website that they say he works at. And I'm like, who? So then I found out he owns a phantom company called Ali Shan, and I found him on Open Corporates because he's also the president. and the legal representative of the Ahmadiyya movement in Puerto Rico. They just opened up in Puerto Rico, so he signed all the paperwork, and his name is on it. Because so in every state they have to incorporate in every state.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you have a national community, it's like starting a business. So you got to do it in every state, follow the laws of the state. So yeah, he's their main guy, and I think about a third of the money that they collect is the take, and that gets sent to national. The other 60-70% is spent on maintenance. So they probably just spent 2 to 3 million on this Jalsa from hard-earned people's money. My
Yeah,
dad
but
was forcing me to work 7 days a week when I was age 7 to 18, just to give them money. So,
I mean, there's only 5,000 people there. How are you gonna spend that much money on what?
and it wasn't even 5,000. It was probably like 2,500. Because
I mean,
what
yeah,
they,
it was like I saw the sitting, and it was like you saw it too. It was like scant. It was like five
yeah,
people here, three people there, just sitting on the ground. Poor guys didn't even get them nice sofas and chairs for that much money.
yep. And so I'm guessing there was about 1,000 on the men's side and 1,000 on the women's side,
Okay.
and that's it, brother. And you probably didn't see a lot of young people. I was looking at the crowd to see if I see my dad. My dad
What?
didn't go,
Well,
but
they didn't zoom in, so I can't really tell.
yeah, it's hard to tell. And everyone's wearing a mask. How funny is that? It's like, bro, I go to the masjid where you want to wear it, but it's like, dude, COVID's over. It's over, bro. Come on, man.
Uh,
But the Khalifa won't wear a mask. He's that arrogant, and he makes everyone wear a mask around him, but he won't.
yeah, he's a Khalifa. He can't die. Their Nabi didn't die. He's just taken away. So I mean, how's the Khalifa gonna die?
Yeah,
So I think you were looking something up for us.
I
Nope.
don't remember.
Oh, I thought you were saying something. Okay.
Oh,
So
well,
so
I
what's
posted the article of Atala Shah Bukhari in the
Oh yeah,
chat.
Atawallah Shah Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi. Yeah,
So
yeah.
if anyone wants to read it, there it is. I don't remember what I wrote because I don't remember exactly what I've written in all these places. So
Subhanallah. Okay, so one of the questions is how has their belief changed from Khalifa to Khalifa? Like I started listening and they were talking about such and such guy and such guy, and then I started reading a little bit. I've been reading your blog a little bit, I've been reading in general a little bit, and it seems as though the belief does shift a little bit when the Khalifa changes. And they were talking about it, oh, when so and so was a Khalifa, we did this. We didn't have a TV station, and when they were exiled from Pakistan, and you told the story about that last week about what actually happened. They're like, we went to such and such country and there was no cameras, and then by the time he passed away, we had like our own TV station and 70 channels or something like that. And they're just talking about this, and the last Khalifa, he's made this made us a lot of money or something like that. And we're just like wondering, like, what the heck, like, are you guys focused on the world, or are you guys focused on the akhirah? So what happens when Khalifa is the Khalifa? What do they focus on? How do they change stuff like that?
yeah, so their Khalifa's allowed to change anything he wants, anything,
Okay.
uh, and they have. But the framework that the second Khalifa set up is what they really follow. He's the one who approved of Confucius being a prophet. He could have said no. He, if he hadn't approved of it, it wasn't going to happen. So
Confucius said he's Ahmadi prophet.
he's an Ahmadi prophet. Confucius, look, they even said some of the Hindu gods, Brahma. So they're willing to say whatever it takes to get people in, and that's an issue. And I always had that issue. I used to work with my dad. I don't sell things to people that they don't need. I just don't, and I'm not gonna do it even now, bro. If you don't, I'm not gonna get over on people or try to sell them something. So that's what the issue is. Whether they're in Mauritius, that they're also in countries like Mauritius, they'll start a newspaper and they'll try to go get someone to convert who doesn't know everything. Now, a year later, he learns all the beliefs, and now you're stuck. What are you gonna do? You've already signed the bat form, and you committed. So once you find out the truth, now what do? Now you're financially connected, and since you're financially connected, you can't make that break. So how are you going to break off now? You put all your eggs in one basket. So that's how they're trying to trap people. Then they don't have imams; they call them murabbis, which is
Yeah, what the heck is that?
and someone called him a rabbi, and I was like, well, that's actually I hadn't seen it like that. I was like, Murabee. I was like, it's a rabbi. right, right. So they hate the word Molvi, they hate the word mullah, so they didn't want it. So instead, they call each other Murabee, as if it saves them from the embarrassment of not being able to read the Quran or something.
Yeah, I mean, because they start off their speeches with the kalima, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, and then they just jump into it.
Yeah,
There's no, like, when I give a Jummah, you start off nahmadu wa nusalli ala rasul karim wa alhamdulillah alhamdulillah nahmadu wa nasta'inu. You try to do it with your best tajweed, and then you a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim qala Allah ta'ala, you know وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين, and then you might, what's it called, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and you might say in a hadith, what's it called, إنما الأعمال بالنيات or something like, but you go through it, and then you give your speech based on that. I heard, I think, 3 or 4 speeches. I didn't listen to all of them completely, but like the Ameer and the other guy, I forget what his name, Fahim, I was listening to theirs, and they were just sort of like ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and then they just jump in.
that's what they're taught. That's exactly, they're taught a format for speeches, and that's it. And honestly, I didn't even know of the semantics of what you're supposed to do. So all these guys have been trained since they were 5, 6 years old.
Well, generally speaking, when you give a speech, you have some hamd and sana. You praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before you start, and then you recite a ayah of the Quran which is relevant. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but generally speaking, this is the way which has been done. And then you give an ayah, and you give an explanation of the ayah, then you give a hadith, and you give the relevant hadith, you give the explanation of it. They didn't do anything of any of that, and their Arabic obviously is very bad at best. Bad would be a compliment for them. Um, and they're most of their speeches either in English or Urdu. And like you said, they jump over to Urdu when they can't explain anything. And it goes back to one of the things we were discussing even earlier today, is where they don't tell people about Ahmadiyya itself, about how it actually works, the inside or the backside of it. They just sort of like hope it works out and people become Ahmadis, and then once they become Ahmadis, they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess now I have to accept that Jesus or Isa alayhi salam, trekked out to Kashmir and he died, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is the reincarnation or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? I just found something new, and I wrote a blog entry about it. Wa- Once I had an Amity tell me, a rogue Amity, I was like, yeah, dude, this Jesus in India is ridiculous. People made it up. One guy made it up, Nicholas Natovich. Another guy made it up, and y'all believed it. I might have believed it too 100 years ago, but now we can do the research. He goes, well, what about the tomb of St. Thomas? I was like, St. Thomas? There's another one in India. So I look it all up and I'm like, okay, brother. It took me like 2 days. I was like, check this out. The Portuguese got to India first, and they built a church wherever they land. And then they said, oh, we've been here forever. We've been here. Look, and they made up this lie that St. Thomas was buried in Chennai, which is close to Madras on the east coast of India. So then I was doing my research last night, and Amnes believes Saint Thomas. That's true. They believe Saint Thomas was also buried in India, far away from G. How'd he get so far? It's like 1,000 miles away, bro. How'd he stray off the path of his leader? So, and I just found a solid reference for that. So, you know,
So they say Isa alayhi salam died in Kashmir.
at age 120. He lived
Acha, so
90 additional years, and they say he was on the cross. Remember, as Muslims, we don't
yeah, we
believe
don't believe that. Yeah,
he was not there. Why would Allah allow his messenger to be humiliated as such?
yeah,
Never happened. Not a Rasul. Nabis have been killed,
yeah.
but not that I can remember a Rasul to be humiliated. He's specifically sending him to a people, whereas Nabis could be sent to their own nation. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Um,
So like one of the things which we know is not name wise, but we know that Anbiya alayhi salatu salam were killed. Like they would hide in trees, and people would saw the tree down and kill them. And there were nabis who were killed, giving dawah. But Allah, dying on the cross is a level of humiliation which we just cannot accept. And
Right.
that's one of the reasons why, aside from the proof, it's like, okay, if he died, where did he go, where's the cross, things like that. Aside from all of that, it's like, okay, so you're telling me right now that he sort of took the cross with him all the way to Kashmir.
No, no, they say he survived.
Okay.
Came with nails in his arm,
Okay.
and was able to hide in caravan. I mean, how would he have gotten to India? There's one trade route. It's the Silk Road separates in Afghanistan and goes north. The Silk Road
Okay.
doesn't go. There's another one through India. It's the long way to get to China. Kashmir is in the middle of nowhere. There's no road. If you look north of Kashmir, you're not getting through those mountains 1,000 years ago. Now I think they built a highway to where you could drive over the Himalayas. There's like two or three ways or something like that.
I
But
mean, could Mirza Ghulam Ahmad fly?
no, no, not at
I don't
all.
know. Maybe they have some folklore where he was flying and stuff like
He
that. So,
was so high and he was flying. You know what I mean? Because he was
he
high, bro.
is in the clouds.
Look at his eyes, bro. Just look at his eyes. He can't focus. If a cop pulls you over and runs the flashlight, oh, pull up, yep, run the breathalyzer. He's on something. We're gonna have to get some blood tests. This guy. But yeah,
Oh,
brother,
man.
it's the weirdest set of beliefs, and it keeps getting weirder and weirder. Socrates is a prophet. Saint Thomas is also buried in India, and that they say he lived 90 years in India. 90. I mean, the majority of his prophethood was in India. That the Quran doesn't mention, allegedly.
Honestly speaking, if Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was in India for 90 years after leaving, he would have done some dawah. What was he, just chilling out there? Just chilling in taking a bath or something? Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is one of the most beloved prophets in our religion. But this version is staying in India for 90 years and he's not doing any dawah. He's just chilling out there. And, there's no Christians out there.
And his mother. And his mother.
Oh, Maryam
Remember
alayhi
that?
salam as well. Oh, very nice. So they're both chilling out there, but there's no Christians out there.
There's no Christians. No one converts. And then check this out. The British government shows up to British India. They go to Murray. I'm sure you've been to Murray.
Yeah, I've been to Murray.
There's their so remember, it's hot in India. No one likes the heat.
Yeah.
So to avoid the heat, you go up into the mountains
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where it's beautiful. You go to Murray.
Yeah.
So the military attachment, Catholic military attachment, had a station at Murray they'd go to in the summer. They built a church. Catholics are big into Mary, right? As we all
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know all the specifics of how they view Mary, but she's special.
Yeah.
So they built a church. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad died. After he died, they said she was buried in Murray, and here's the church. But it's like, bro, the military built this stuff. That church you're claiming and the tomb, didn't even exist until the British military showed up and built it, bro. So
Bashir, you might have to understand, through all of their, mysticism and magic of the Ahmadis, you might have missed the point where they have time traveling too.
yeah,
Somebody might have went back into time and built the church, and you just don't know. It seems as though you're one of the ones who's least informed about the Ahmadis.
probably. So once I looked all that up and I posted it all, I'm like, what? These guys are so desperate. How could you be so desperate? Well, the reason they're desperate is here's what they do. So you're an imam, brother. Right? I think I'm quite sure of it, right?
You're asking me?
Yeah. I'm asking you.
I've done imamas for about 12 to 13 years, yeah, on and off.
Right. So the Ahmadiyya movement copied the Christian missionary system, and where they keep their imams broke and financially connected to where they don't have an option. Whatever they're told to do, they're gonna do it. They're
Okay.
gonna do it. So they handicap them financially and make them make these arguments. So they sent one of their Murabees to Kashmir to say, "Hey, go and fabricate information and bring it back." He's gonna do it. Hey, we need you to give a speech. One of their Murabees compared questioning Ahmadis to dead rats, and then he said he even quoted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So,
And I was like, where? Show me the reference. You're saying this, but you're not giving a reference. So I Googled it. I looked it up. I have not found anywhere yet in a few hours I've been searching where
you know what it is? It's
yeah.
in one of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's books that hasn't been published yet. You still need to wait.
Right, but they cited Islamic history, and they lie about that too. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad had said that there was Sahih Hadith that said the Messiah would come in the 14th century. He said this in like 20 books, and we're like, bro, that's a lie. There is no such Hadith anywhere, not even inauthentic. You know what I mean? That says so. This is what they do. They'll give these speeches and say these things without even giving a proper reference, brother.
But it goes back to the whole, the cult like situation of how they built themselves up. Where Khilafat, Hazrat Abu Bakr was the Khalifa, then Hazrat Umar was the Khalifa, then Hazrat Usman was the Khalifa, and Hazrat Ali were the Khalifa. But there wasn't any like direct familial relation. There were familial relations because they were from Quraysh, but there weren't any like direct relations, right? So Khilafat goes from one pious to the next pious, not from one cousin to the next perverted cousin. That's
Right.
not how it works. And unfortunately for them, it's a family business, like you've said. And one of the questions one of my relatives, my uncle, had was, and I want you to answer this now. Is he's like, when I first moved to Canada in the 90s, he's like, we lived in an apartment. He's like, we couldn't afford a house. He's like, and these Qadianis were living in $1 million houses in the nice part of town. He's like, they just come from Pakistan maybe like 5 years and they're living in $1 million house. How?
Why? Because it's the support system. They fooled the Canadian government. The Canadian government doesn't care, even if they didn't fool them. Okay?
Okay.
They're gonna help them no matter what.
Okay.
So they got the U.S. government in their pocket. They got the Canadian government in their pocket. They got the UK government in their pocket. They got the German government in their pocket, and they still fail. No one's still joining, but they are getting perks to pass along to their members and say, "Oh, you need a job? We can help you get a job. Oh, you need a wife? We have a network. We'll take care of that too." Well, these guys aren't qualified. We don't care. We're gonna make you until so it's a benefit to the Mirza family to have rich followers because rich followers can give more money. See what I mean? It's a workforce development thing. They want Amnis to be successful so they can pay more
Work,
money.
workforce development blueprint.
Totally. It totally is. They don't want Amnis to be poor, struggling. They want Amnis to make some decent money and then give it up. I was just watching. My brother said in on his podcast that he's sacrificing like the Muslims in Mecca, and it's like, brother, stop that. Stop. Don't compare yourself to those people, brother. Knock it off, brother. We're in America. How could you compare yourself to the Muslims at Mecca in any way? In any way, don't do that,
So
brother.
your brother has an Ahmadi podcast?
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel. I think it's Huram Shaw 74. He might
Okay.
even do a video with you if you approach him.
Why? Why the
I'd
why
like to
the
see it.
hell would I do that?
I don't know. I mean, he did a video with us on Yemenite front, but he said he didn't want to see me. I had to shut my camera or something like that. So he's played with us, and we are actively trying to invite them, brother. Say, hey,
Oh,
look,
okay.
you come and we will explain to you why Isa al-Islam is not dead, because you don't even understand our position. At least understand our position. At least act like our position exists, because these guys act like it doesn't exist. And it's like, look, you know it exists. You know what it is. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge what we believe.
But I mean, after listening to two speeches, just two speeches was enough for me from Jalsa Salana. Ahmadiyya Qadianis clearly are not following what we follow at all.
At
There's
all.
there's 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 clearly no similarities between us at all. And I was watching a video today. There was somebody in a group I'm in. It's a guy. He's a convert brother, and he sent a video, and it was discussing about it was from one of the episodes of Vikings, and Floki went to like I think they were in Spain, and he went into the masjid, and this guy was a Swedish convert to Islam, and he was talking about he's like, isn't it amazing that the Salah has been the same way, and our worship for the most part, has been the same way for the past, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the whole time since Islam, since the beginning. And he's like, that's just so beautiful. And this is from coming from a convert. And then you look at the Ahmadis, where they've completely changed worship for the most part. It's completely different. Their text, they're like, we follow the Quran and the Sahih Hadith, but when you hear their speeches, there's barely any mention of Hadith. There's complete change of the Quran where they use the ayahs of the Quran in a metaphorical sense and they change it to mean what they need it to mean. And you're like, what the heck? If you go to go pray, if you want to go pray in Saudi, you won't have a problem praying. If you want to go pray and you'll listen to the khutbah, for the most part, it's going to be the same format. It may be in Arabic all the way through, but it's going to be the same format. So you're just like, and then if you walked into Ahmadi Masjid, you'd be like, what the heck's going on here? And I remember one of my friends, he's an Irish guy, and he's like, there's actually quite a population of Ahmadis out in Ireland. He's
There's
like,
like 400. There's not that many.
I don't know, maybe he thought there were a lot, So he's like, I went to the masjid by accident. He's
Much
like,
in Mariam.
okay, so you know the masjid. So he's like, I go to the masjid. He's like, and there's a gate, and I walk in. He's like, I get into the masjid, and these guys are all confused. Why is this tall white guy here? And he's like, I just need to pray. He's like, I didn't know any better. This is when he had, I guess, first become Muslim. He's like, I went and I prayed, and he's like, I sent a picture to my friends. I'm like, oh, look at this beautiful masjid. And they're like, yeah, don't go there again. That's not really a
That prayer
masjid.
didn't count. Whatever you just did doesn't count.
But he prayed on his own, so I think he was okay.
Yeah. And I just posted my essay on the history of Ahmadiyya in Ireland. Ireland's interesting. There's an Ahmadi Murabee Noonan. He's a local Irishman that they converted. First, he had two kids with a Muslim girl, and he ran out on her. Didn't pay child support, nothing. Then he found the enemy of Muslims in the UK, which was Ahmadis and Muslims in the UK. So that's like a huge beef. So he ended up joining, and they gave him another wife. I beefed with this guy. He's on Twitter. I think it's Imam Noonan on Twitter, and he just attacks everyone, says whatever he wants, calls Muslims terrorists. Oh, craziness.
Interesting. So we're gonna sort of jump into like current history, past 50 years or so. Africa. They really love going to Africa. I saw a video of the current one. I don't really know his name. Is just the Khalifa to me. He's their Khalifa. He
Yeah.
went there and they were like kissing his hands and stuff like that, and he was just walking through a lineup of people and they were just standing there and he was like checking them or something like that. So they're in Ghana and Gambia, I think, right?
They're in almost every country in Africa, but it's negligible. In
Okay.
the majority, they're less than 100. You know,
Okay.
but in and everyone's got to read Fisher. There was a guy who wrote about Ahmadiyya in West Africa called
Okay.
Humphrey J. Fisher. I'm
Okay.
going to post his essay right now, 1963. So it's like an artifact. It's like a historical artifact. He called them a maritime implantation, which means the British government used them um, to control people in West Africa. They wanted Muslims to convert to Ahmadiyya so they could control them. And I just posted the link.
Okay.
Um, so in West Africa, they get
Send
money.
me
Yeah,
text WhatsApp me these links and I'm gonna post them in the description of the episode, inshallah.
sure. So in West Africa, they get paid to start schools. So any nonprofit that starts a school in Africa, the government's gonna pay you for it. It's the weirdest thing. So in America, we go to school. School's not free. Property tax pays for kids to go to school, right? So we're all paying into it. Now, if you don't have any kids, you're not getting any benefit from it. But if you had a bunch of kids and they went to public school, your property tax was taking care of it. So in Africa, they don't have that. In Pakistan, they don't have that.
Yeah, they
I
don't
was,
have that, yeah.
I was just talking to my uncle. He was like, "Yeah, school is so hard." And I'm like, "Bro, because there's no taxes in Pakistan. No one pays tax. Is there even sales tax? You know what I mean?" I was like, "In America, we're taxed so much that we can have these situations. But if you're a Republican, that would make sense. They don't want taxes. They don't want the government involved in anything, right? So in Africa,
But I
that's
mean, unless of course you're in, what is it called, Janabnagar, right?
yeah,
Janabnagar, where
yeah.
the British government sponsors your schools. I mean, it's different then.
Yeah. Well, in Qadian, they built the biggest building. They built their school for them that costed like 100,000 rupees. I don't remember the exact price, which was a lot of money to build a huge building. We were on bricks, bro, small little bricks for people to have houses. So anyhow, In West Africa, if they open a hospital, the government's going to pay them for it. On top of that, they tell Ahmadis, you guys give us money too. So in Africa, they're not a nonprofit. We don't know what their legal status is when anyone can start a school. They have a jamia in Nigeria, I think, a missionary training center, but most of their graduates teach English at their high schools. So they started these high schools and they'll show you photos. Look at our high school, all these Ahmadis. But those people aren't Ahmadi. They just go to your school because it's free, or there's a fee. And if you convert to Ahmadiyya, it's free. See what I mean? So that's the scams that they're running. I've written about it extensively. Fisher said it in the 1960s. There's a recent apologist, Hansen from Canada, at the Ahmadiyya movement asked him to refute Fisher. It's hilarious because they found out what Fisher, because maybe they hadn't read Fisher. Yeah, so they're hand over fist, brother, hand over fist, just like the Christian missionaries in Africa. They're not there to help anyone. They're there to convert people so they'll cooperate. Yeah, and the colonization of Africa never ended. The British still control all their old colonies. The French still control all of their old colonies. And the Belgium folks in Congo, the worst. They are the worst human beings. They still control the Congo. So remember, in the Congo was rubber, and the Belgian people got rich off of rubber because people needed it until synthetic rubber was invented. And the atrocities that they did. So now, if you look at Congo, it's like 90% Christian. So that they were able to convert them, and now they're all very cooperative. You see what I mean? And they learn English and etc. So in West Africa, the British government allowed the Ahmadiyya newspapers to get circulation, and that's all you need. That's all you need. If your website gets circulation now, it's the same thing. So people started reading their review of religions, and then started talking to them, and and then the British government was very happy to allow them to come to their African colonies. The French did not. The French did not like Ahmadiyyas. As you know, the French are like extra racist. So, but they didn't have that bond with Ahmadiyya the way the British did. And even now, there's like only 3 Ahmadiyya temples in France, maybe like 200 Ahmadis in all of France. But countries like Mali, Chad, the Ahmadiyya movement got access late, like just in the last 20, 30 years to those French colonies. And Muslims are not happy. In the Gambia, I got friends on Facebook, which the ambassador for the embassy of Gambia was at the Jalsa. And I posted
I saw that. I saw
said,
that.
Look, they, so I sent that to all the brothers in Gambia. The Gambia is like 90% Muslim.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
it's a high percentage of Muslim.
Yeah.
And they're like, why do we have to cater to these people who are like 1%? They're not even 1%. They're like zero. There's more Christians in the Gambia than Ahmadis. So why are we being forced to accommodate and give them a political spot? And why are they on every commission? Why? Well, because the British government is involved, and the British are making everyone use the Ahmadiyya movement. They forced it into America. They forced it into Germany. They forced them into wherever, brother. You name it. So it's still going on, bro.
So tell me a little bit about something you called the asylum business.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny. Mirza Mughal Ahmed, he admitted at the Jalsa that most Ahmadis, most people who filed for asylum, faked it. He said it straight up, because he's like, if you filed for asylum, he said the only reason you're in the West is because of us. So he's like, at least pay us chanda, at least volunteer. Because look,
He's like pay it forward.
do something. Well, in Germany, if you apply for asylum while your case is pending, you can't miss a chanda payment. They'll cancel.
Really?
You got to prove that you're an Ahmadi in Germany. In Germany,
So you miss a chanda payment. You're going back on the. They're throwing you back on the boat.
back on the boat, bro. You got to start all over. And there's about 10,000 Ahmadis stuck in Malaysia right now.
10,000.
10,000 committing suicide, raping each other. Because Malaysia is not with the United Nations. They're not a signatory.
Oh,
so
really?
they don't have to accept any refugees. So the Ahmadiyya movement told Ahmadis, just go to Malaysia and we'll get you out to
Oh,
somewhere. Well, they were wrong. The Ahmadiyya movement gets a quota. From Australia, it's like 50 asylum cases a year. And I was so shocked to hear that the Australian government has given them a quota that they can use as they wish. What the hell, man? So in every country, they have a quota of how many asylum cases per year that they're going to get. So they're using that to generate more money, more chanda, more people to be a volunteer. So that's their pipeline. Without that, it's over. In America, the young Ahmadis, bro. Once you tell someone that Adam alayhi salam is not the first man, miracles didn't happen, the next step is atheism.
yeah.
You've already showed them the door and said, here you go. Then you start believing in evolution. And I'm gonna tell you, there's no evolution for the camel. You know, the camel is a sign of Allah. There's only two types in the whole world. It's the one in Mongolia, the winter camel, and the desert camel. That's it. They didn't come from a common ancestor. Not possible. Same thing with the kangaroo. You can go through the animals and be like, bro, these aren't evolving from each other. A mosquito and a fly didn't evolve from each other. They were separately made to do two separate things. So, but the Amity movement, they supported evolution. They supported all these things. So, unfortunately, I think Muslims believe we were all born Muslim. We're all
Yeah,
born.
yeah,
Um, what's the word? We are all born Bach. I think no, it's not the word. It's sinless because
yeah. We're all
Christians believe we are born
born with
sinners,
sin. Yeah,
and we said no, it's the opposite, right?
yeah.
We said no. Every child, and it's on you what you teach them. What you if you smoke around them, you're doing all these
Yeah.
things around them. What do you expect the
Well, I
kid to
mean,
do?
there was a story I heard once. I was at a store. It's like they have a bread store, and I was at the bread store, and there was this lady telling the story about her grandson was you know always stoned and taking all different sorts of drugs, and so his girlfriend was pregnant, and they already had one kid, and so she brought this little kid, and she's like, she was sitting on the porch, drunk and high, and she dropped her phone. So she went to pick up the phone and she dropped the baby down the steps. And she's like, when this child was born, the child was born with a alcohol addiction and a drug addiction, because while the baby was in the womb, the mother was still drinking and still smoking weed and stuff like that. So that, like, it took like 6 to 9 months for them to get the baby back to normal. And she's like, I'm actually the caretaker of the baby, and this is like a 70-year-old woman, and she's like, this is the best this baby's ever gonna get.
Yeah,
So it's exactly like that, that if you're raised in an environment of Ahmadiyya, there's no way, you're lucky. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not gonna say lucky, sorry, let me take that back. You're blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you to be able to get out of that. But with the amount of money, if they can get the money, there's no reason for anybody to leave.
right.
They
Because
have everything they could want. So one of the things which I heard in Fahim's speech was he was talking about, what is it called, Mubahila.
Mubahila,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was talking about the challenges. And so he was mentioning these challenges, and then how Ziaul Haq, not Ziaul Haq, sorry, Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, when he declared the Ahmadis as non-Muslims, immediately within 5 years he was, hung up by his own general and stuff like that. And he's talking about how, what's it called? He had other challenges to him, and he won all of the challenges. And this certain Christian preacher or something like that, he challenged him, and he won that. So my question to you, and this is something I've heard, and I asked you about this yesterday actually, was about Muhammadi Begum. Muhammadi Begum, I heard about her almost 17 years ago. There's a sheikh by the name of Maulana Makki Hijazi. He's a sheikh who teaches in Makkatul Mukarrama in Urdu. He's Pakistani. And his son recently passed away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mercy on him. Sheikh Makki Hijazi, occasionally he'll delve into the Qadianis and, rip them a new one. And he was talking about it. And he's like, वो बड़ा बदबख्त था, कह रहा है, वो कहता है मुझे उससे शादी करनी है. I want to marry this woman. And then he offers her a challenge. And if you don't marry me, this will happen to you. That will marry to you. That will happen to you. And she's like, don't worry. She's like, look, I'm not gonna die before you. She's like, if you die first, that means I'm on the truth. And if I die first, that means you're on the truth. And he ended up dying in 1908, and this woman didn't die till 1966. So what are some of these challenges? And Muhammadi Begum, tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah. So let me start with the concept of
Oh, he
Mubahila,
pulled out the big book.
because I gotta remember. So
Okay.
Mubahila is not Muslim on Muslim.
Okay.
The only time Mubahila ever happened was Muslim versus Christian. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Christians from Najran, right? If you know
Yeah.
the story, but it never happened. They never went and did it. He just said, if this is what you want, this is what we can do. But it never happened, right?
Yeah.
And then over the course of history, Muslims never did this to Christians.
Yeah.
There's no the Imam Abu Hanifa had a Mubahila with a Christian. Nope. Imam Maliki had a nope. Muslims don't normally pray for other people to die. Like
Yeah.
I haven't really seen or heard that, right?
Yeah.
So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says no. There's a concept of
You know,
Mubahila.
every time you tell a story, which is so crazy, I have to pull out my juice, because I'm like, this is crazy, and people are actually believing it.
Yeah, and is that mango?
I think it's a mix of like 2 or 3 different fruits.
Okay. You got me. I'm kind of thirsty because it's hot right now. But okay. But okay. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad took the idea of Mubahila and said, anyone I have a problem with, I'm going to do a Mubahila with you, right? And so the first few people were Muslim. So he says, no, I can't do a Mubahila with Muslim. Then he says, my God says I can. So all of a sudden he starts doing all this with Muslims. At the same time, because this is 1891. At the same time, he does prophecies about people, right? So they'll say, no, that was a prophecy. No, that was a Mubahila. Well, what's really the difference here? It's like the same thing. So his triple niece, because this was his niece, she was like 12 years old. He was like
Yeah.
15. Her dad comes to him and says, hey, there's land that I need you to sign off on so I can get it. It belonged to me. Another family member has been missing. That land is gonna go back to you. Sign it off and give it to me. It's my land. What? We're in some weird British system.
Yeah.
Follow Islamic rules.
Yeah.
MGA was like, hold on, let me go ask Shaitan. so he goes, and then he comes back and he says, Shaitan has told me that I'll do it, but give me your daughter. And bro, if someone came up to you and that's their proposal to marry your daughter, any man will slap you stupid. We did what? I'm your uncle, bro. I'm like your uncle, and I'm asking you for land, and you're like, give me your daughter, and then we'll make the deal? No, hell no. I'm not going to do it. So they end up going to the press, and they're like, this guy says he's religious, he's going to defend Islam. Look what he's doing to his family. So once they do that, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad blows it. He loses it. He makes his son divorce his wife, because his son, his eldest sons, remember, they never accepted him.
Yeah.
He makes one of them divorce his wife because she's related in that family.
Yeah.
Okay, then he says, you know what? The girl has to be married to me. If she doesn't marry me, her dad's gonna die in 6 months, and then her new husband's gonna die in 6 years. I can't remember the years. So they're like, whatever, say whatever you want. We don't believe that. So
and these were actually believing Muslims.
These were Muslims. I mean, I don't know what masjid they went to. I always ask, what masjid do you go to, bro? You know what I mean? If you're a Muslim, oh yeah, okay. So I go anywhere. I go Oakland, Union City, but my local masjid is my local masjid, bro. Where everyone knows me. Where everyone sees me.
Well, I'm pretty sure they know you at the local temple as well.
The locals, oh yeah, the Ahmadiyya temple. I think they've changed. They got all new people in there. So, but anyhow, so he marries her. Her dad was like 80, and then he dies, right? So, and not in the 6 months. Then he says, okay, she's gonna come to me, whether a widow or a virgin. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna get her as a widow. So she's married now. He keeps stalking her. He keeps going after her. He won't stop. He keeps saying, no, her husband's going to die. And then her husband's in the British military. He really could die at any minute, you know? So he doesn't die. 1908 comes around, and they're like, okay, maybe one of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's sons or daughters will marry one of her sons or daughters, and that's how we'll solve this quagmire. That doesn't happen either. So they end up bribing some of her sons, got them to convert. Bro, in Pakistan, they're so poor. If you offer them some money, they'll sign a bat for them, bro. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, I'm not going to do it, but I'll sign it to get the money.
Yeah.
So they start pulling tricks like that. In fact, they're trying to do me the same way. With some of the cousins that I know, they're trying to make sure some of my cousins don't leave Ahmadiyya and etc. So that was the story. He stalked his triple niece for years and years and years. His prophecy failed. It wasn't the only prophecy that failed. All of his Mubahilas failed. They mentioned one against Dowie. They're building a huge temple in Zion because some guy Dowie claimed to be Elijah 100 years ago, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said, "You're gonna die," and like he died of paralysis, but he repented. He never accepted the Mubahila. So for a Mubahila to be valid, they have to accept it. Um, so bro, it's just the same stuff. Forget the topic. Whether it's Isa al-Islam, Mahdi, Jihad, they're lying about everything. Whether it's Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's lifestyle, his massages. Why did he get massages? And as you know, in Desi culture, they'll have you walk on their back. And it's like weird. Why do you have your kids, bro? What do you play soccer every day? You need a massage or something? You don't even work. You know what I mean? Like, why do you need a massage? But
Mm.
in Desi culture, they just make their kids stand on them. It's the weirdest thing. Well, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad went a step further, and he would have people send their wives to spend the night with him and wake him up when he had a revelation. Because when he had revelations, it would be a schizophrenic episode. You see what I mean? It would be a big episode, and he'd say he had a revelation. So that's sort of the story on that, brother.
Okay. That was quite interesting. I mean, some of the light you shed into that. So now we're gonna get into like current events. Um, there's three that stand out. One is obviously you made a video about it recently. The girl, I don't remember her name, the one who's like the niece of the current Khalifa. She's been raped for the past 20 years or something like that, and she's been kept in captivity, and they shipped her off to Rabwa and stuff like that. Then there's Imran Ahmad Khan, the I guess he's one of the houses of England. He's recently been accused of not accused. He's recently been found out that he was raping youngsters. And
Sentence. No, he asked some kid. Some kid was wearing like an Irish skirt,
mhm.
and he said, "Are you wearing it like a true Irishman?" And I guess a true Irishman doesn't wear an underwear underneath it.
Oh, God.
So he said this to a 15-year-old kid. Man, what is going on? And he was sentenced. Imran Ahmad Khan was sentenced to like 8 months, but he's gonna get the golf course, and we don't know where he's at. They'll say he's in jail. We don't know.
And then the last one was the teacher from Texas, the Murabee, I guess, um, who is messing around with kids, and it says some brother named Javed Latif is saying the Scottish kilt.
The Scottish kids. I can't. Okay, maybe it's Scottish. I don't know. I don't
I
wear that, brother. I
I
wear
know.
like covered thick coverings. I don't know. Maybe in my house when I'm alone and it's really hot. You know what I mean? I might wear some shorts or something like that with no
Yeah.
one around or something. But no, brother. Same thing.
Uh,
Look. In Ireland, they don't just eat pork. They eat pork blood, and they use it as a pudding. And I was so mortified to understand this. So hey, but that's what they do. That's their culture. That's their people. I'd rather eat some bread and water instead.
and then the teacher in Texas who we were discussing how he was able to afford his bond, and we couldn't figure out how he's able to afford his bond. So what's up with these sexual scandals?
Yeah, it's a deep rape culture in Rubwa. In fact, there's
Obviously, it descends from having your I don't even know what to call him. Your great leader Qadian for the Qadianis, um, inviting women over at night who weren't his wives. You know.
Yeah, no, it's worse than that. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad tells of a story that there was a follower of his named Yar Muhammad, who during Salat had a problem where he would jump rows and get close to Mirza Ghulam Ahmad and grope him during Salat. What? Who is this guy? He's also the same guy who would get the tonic wine for him from Lahore. So this Yar Muhammad, what? And I even found a clip of the Khalifa admitting that this guy would jump rows during Salat to grope the Messiah. He's touching him everywhere. And look, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad used to touch his thigh with his finger, like motioning to the guy, and he'd run over. Oh, he's gone. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad touches his thigh, and he goes crazy. So that's where it comes from. The second Khalifa was worse. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's son, they even said, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, he used to do adultery every once in a while. But you, you do it every day.
You
and
take
he
the
raped
cake.
men. He raped men and women. In fact, in 1931, bro, he goes to the Cecil Hotel in Lahore, and he brings home an Italian dancer. And everyone's like, what? Whoa, whoa. And then he says, no, I brought her to Qadian to teach my women English. They're like, bro, she don't even know English. She's Italian. Back then, it's not the same. Maybe some Italians can speak English now because English.
Yeah, but it wasn't as common then.
Yeah, I was like, or maybe she knows some broken words. Not the person you want to teach. Why would that be the person to teach? So she was there. She even tried to sue him. He had to address the issue, and they even said he was touching his daughter's I was showing. Okay, I think we're back. Yeah, so he says he was teaching his daughter how to use a rifle. So that's why he had his arms all over her, or something weird like that, right? So then men started coming forward saying the Khalifa's having sex with them. He's got boyfriends. He's out of control. Then they go to Rabwa. It's out of control. Now they got to remember, Rabwa, there's no police department. There's no police. They are the police. So from 1948 to 1974, they're running wild. And that's where the current Khalifa grew up with that crew. Those are all his friends, all the people he grew up with, all the rape stuff, all that was happening. Now they come out. Nida al-Nasser, she's a granddaughter of two of the Khalifas, the third and fourth. And she says her father's been raping her since the beginning. And in fact, she said he was farming her out. The chairman of MTA, Naseer Shah, who was caught drinking on like a UK, some kind of program on the UK. We've been calling him Shandy Shah. He says he had sex with so many women, family members of the Mirza family. So they've called it the Game of Thrones. And I sent you a link to a Reddit forum where
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So unfortunately, the majority of those people are atheists, which proves the point Ahmadiyya leads to atheism. Because the majority of ex-Ahmadis, not even close, not even close. And I've tried to show them the signs that I told you, even about the moon. You know, why do we have a moon? Venus ain't got no moon. Mars ain't got no moon the way that we have it. You know, and sorry for the slang, but I have to say it like that. If it wasn't for the moon, our Earth would be out of balance. It would not be able to operate, period, point blank. The moon controls, you know, even the animals in the ocean. On a full moon, they're out. Everyone's out. On a full moon, they're reproducing during a full moon because there's so much light. So I've even tried to say, bro, if this world is random, who moved the moon to be here? It didn't have to be here, you know. So obviously, someone put it there. We say it's Allah, and he put it at the perfect spot. He gave us the perfect amount of water. He put the oil in the ground. It's probably not fossil fuel. It's deliberately put there because he knew we would need it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then Munibur Rahman, this guy's jumped bail twice. You know, where's
that's the teacher, right?
Yeah. That's the teacher guy who's a Canadian citizen. They've impounded his passport, and and he might get deported because I don't even think he was a citizen of Canada. Another asylum case. He's an asylum case. He's probably from Rubwa. In Rubwa, they said they used to find out if they saw a kid they wanted to rape, they'd rape him once and then they'd tell other people because once you've been raped once, I guess you're game. And they would they'd find other guys to keep doing this. And I used to see these amnies from Rubwa, and I'd be like, why do I get these vibes that he's in the this guy's a rapist? He's into men. You know, he's not into like he's clearly into men, and not even like, hey, can I get your number? Like, no, I'm gonna try to rape you, not you know. So yeah, so we got Imran Ahmad Khan. He tried to rape a young boy, 20, 30 years younger than him. Munibur Rahman, he's another one. Then
He's a
there's
Murabee, right?
no, he's not technically a Murabee, but he's close. He was in charge of the youth.
Yeah, perfect guy to keep in charge of your youth.
And his brother-in-law was his supervisor.
Yeah, his brother-in-law was the supervisor. That's why he kept getting away with it. They said.
That's why he kept getting away because these are the cycles. But there's another guy you didn't mention, Rana Luqman.
I guess I didn't get that deep into the blog yet.
Yeah, there's about 6 Ahmadiyya sex scandals going on simultaneously right now. This is the biggest one. The biggest one you didn't mention. This guy was extradited to the U.S. Because he was he was at their Jamia in
I read that
Canada.
name. I read that name. I actually read that name. I didn't read the article though.
Yep, 5 minor victims. He made videos of them naked, or he got them to make naked videos of themselves, or send to them stuff. Then he was blackmailing them, all while being a student at their seminary in Canada.
Hmm.
Right. So the Canadian government was like, they dropped the case. Remember, they're in so good with the Canadian government. They dropped the case. They're like, it's not in our jurisdiction. I think it was a jurisdiction issue, but it could have been something else. It could have been the Ahmadiyya movement saying, hey, can you help us out? So the FBI finally got a hold of it. They extradited him to the U.S. If you read his case, he had people in different states that he was blackmailing. So he hasn't been sentenced yet, and they've taken his passport and denied him bail. So that's also going on.
God.
And there's so few of them. There's so few of them.
And this is coming from, like, in essence, leadership or people in charge of certain roles at their temples, or what they call their masjids and stuff like that, that they're entrusting such people like that. And then, obviously Nida, she's obviously the daughter of, or she's the niece. You said niece of 2 different Khalifas, right?
The granddaughter of 2 Khalifas and
Oh,
the niece
granddaughter.
Yeah.
And is she still Ahmadi?
She still says she is. The last we heard from her. This is what I'm telling you. The brainwashing is so deep. She says, oh, Ahmadiyyat is okay, but the leadership is wrong. It's like, what are you talking about? And not to mention, she's the great-great-granddaughter of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad.
That's why earlier today when we were talking and I was just messing with you, I was like, maybe we should send out the StreamYard link and try to get a few Ahmadis to come on and talk with us. And I was like, you know what? They're beyond repair. I don't think we can do anything. They're like a broken toilet.
Brother, look, I know ex-Ahmadis who still haven't given up the belief that Isa al-Islam is dead.
Do you guys have like a group or something like that of ex-Ahmadis, or not really?
There is, but it's a loose environment, loose group. I think it's going to take people 10 years to figure out that just read chapter 4, verse 159. Isa al-Islam has not died yet. It's there, and then there's a famous hadith. Brother, have you read the hadith of Abu Hurairah on chapter 4, verse 159?
You might have to pull it up. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Brother, you got to pull this up. I'm gonna post it in the Abu Hurairah, one of
Who they don't like.
who Mirza Ghulam Ahmad called. But here's why. Here's why Mirza Ghulam Ahmad called him a gubby, astaghfirullah. He's the #1 hadith transmitter in history, right? Quite sure. No
Yeah.
one's above Abu Huraira. There
Abu
are
Hurairah
not.
radiallahu anhu. Yeah, yeah,
I cannot remember like a inauthentic hadith that ever came from him.
yeah,
Just can't remember any.
yeah.
Um, he says he talks about the return of Isa, and he says if you want, you can recite chapter 4, verse 159. Right? So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad tried to change 4 verse 159 and said that it only means that when Christians die, they will before their death, not Isa alayhi salam's death, before the death of Christians, you know, they will see the truth and be shown how wrong their religion was. And it's like, nah, bro, it's not. You got to read 4 157, 158, then 159. That's the full story. He wasn't killed on the cross. Allah lifted him to heaven physically, to the samawate. Allah lifted him to the samawate, not the Jannah. Um, and from the samawate, he will return. And before his death, he will convert all the Christians on the earth, 99%. That's what the hadith says and everything. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad knew this. So he calls Abu Huraira a gubby. Only way out. And it's like, bro, but the half the hadith Mirza Ghulam Ahmad used are from Abu Huraira. Because like the return of Isa and Abu Huraira are connected. There's so many hadiths.
I
You
mean,
know, there's probably like
convenient.
10.
It's a game of convenience.
Right. It's totally a game of okay, what do we do? You know, my brother said, is there a way out? And he said the Ahmadiyya movement always finds a way out. And I was like, that's the problem. Why are you looking
Your
for a
brother said
way
this.
out? You know, you should look for the truth,
You
not.
said your own brother said this.
Oh yeah. He said, yeah. In the many debates we've had, yeah, he said straight up.
So
No.
do you guys? I guess I don't know if you guys really discuss anymore. Have any real discussions?
Oh, we've never had any discussions.
Oh, really?
He's refused to speak to me. So it proves there is no love for all, hatred for none. He's boycotted me. My dad has told his brothers to boycott me.
Yeah, you told me
Um,
that last time.
so like I'll call my uncles, bro. So it's as if I never had any uncles. It's
Mm.
as if I never had parents. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
Because when you don't speak to someone
yeah,
for a few years, you start to forget
yeah.
who they
And you said
are.
it's been 5 years now, right?
It's been 7
Oh, it's been 7.
since I left Ahmadiyya, coming up on 7, getting close to 7.
Mm.
So I had a few years in there where I was thinking,
Oh,
you know,
okay,
like 2015, 2016, I hadn't said the Shahada yet, and
okay.
I was weighing my options, and you know that's how I found Islam. Is
So were you praying and stuff, or you were just like sort of like cut off from everything?
just cut off from everything. And
Okay.
then in 2017, I had met the Imam of the Brentwood Masjid just randomly, and I was like, "Who are you?" He was like, "Yeah, come to Brentwood." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I came to Brentwood Masjid, and I told him, "Yeah, I used to be a Qadiani. I'm a Muslim now." He was like, "Have you said the Shahada?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, can you say it again?" I was like, "For sure. I'll say it a million times." You know what I mean? So you know, because he just wanted to witness it, I guess, or just to be sure, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we don't give that to a local imam or something like that because
Yeah,
he
yeah,
can move, he can leave.
yeah.
We're
So,
not gonna leave with him and say, "Bro, we follow you." You know?
yeah, yeah. So no, I mean, it's I can understand the reason why you took like, if you want to put it this way, a few years off is because how mentally distraught a person can become after believing in all of this folklore and all of this hogwash and all of this, straight up, gunk and murkiness. It would take a person a few years to get their head on straight. And I imagine even 2 years for some people may not be enough. Because you're talking about this girl who's been raped for 20 years, who's in her 30s or something now, and
Yeah,
she still can't get away from it, even though she's seen what's happening. She tried to talk with their Khalifa. He didn't do anything about it. All he told her was, "Oh, don't go out and tell anybody about this." And she recorded the conversation. And then they're like, "Well, it's not really him." I think that's what they were trying to say, right? Oh, it's not really him.
So at first they always deny it. So
Yeah.
I was a big part of getting that audio out, and I didn't put it on my channel because I knew they would try to get my channel taken down. So I had someone else do it.
Okay.
I said, "Hey, you put it on your channel. That'll work." And that really hurt him. That conversation hurt him so bad because it showed how dumb the Khalifa is. Um, the Khalifa didn't know for rape you don't need four witnesses, bro. How does he not know that? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
that's going down deeper into the rabbit hole. He doesn't know, a lot of basics.
yeah. Yeah, and so a lot of ex-Ahmadis, I actually had an ex-Ahmadi admit to me, he's older, like 70, 80. He's like, I didn't even know how to read the Quran. How could I know the verses on Isa? And I'm like, oh, because you can reverse engineer, bro. You don't have to be a student of the Quran. So Allah has made the Quran so easy to understand, and you don't need to be a scholar. And
Yeah.
that's in the Quran. Said that he didn't make it so complicated to where only a few people could understand it.
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ.
There you go. So, and I'm like, look, you just got to read the hadith. Just read what Abu Hurairah. Why did Mirza Ghulam Ahmad curse Abu Hurairah? It's because this Sahih hadith where 4159 is connected to the return of Isa. Game over. That's it. There's no conversation left to be had. This isn't some guy we've never heard of giving a hadith.
Yeah.
This is the top guy. So, so he was telling me it's been 20 years. He quit Ahmadiyya. He still believes. He even said he still believes heaven and hell to be metaphors as explained in the Quran. I was like, so I'm easy on people. Even the atheists, I'm willing to work with them. If they got some information, some references that I can use, let's figure out a way to work together. You know what I mean? That's always been my attitude ever since I was a kid. So that's what I'm dealing with here. Is not everyone, not all the ex-Ahmadis are on the right page, but it's up to Allah to get them there. So
So one of the brothers is saying we feel for brother Bashir, and we'll make dua for him, and I hope he's found a good family with the people he's met through Islam.
kind of, sorta. Is
Yeah,
all I'll
inshallah,
say.
it's a work in progress. We can't, sort of.
Yeah, and and I'll tell you, Muslims are not like Ahmadis when it comes to women. Muslims are protective of their women.
Yeah.
Some Afghani families won't marry a non-Afghani. Some Arab families, and that's totally their whatever that's on them. You know what I mean?
That's a culture, I guess.
It's a
That's the best
culture.
we can say.
They know in Islam it's one race.
Yeah.
No multiple races. We're
Yeah.
one thing. But whatever, so some of the Afghanis still do the Afghani dancing stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the weirdest thing to me. I'm like, why do you guys still do that? Like, when Islam came, it's almost erasing your culture because
Yeah.
this is a new culture that accepts all and makes one. So, but hey, once again, I'm easy on people. They can do whatever they want, and I got faith in Allah that everything's gonna be okay.
Inshallah, inshallah. I mean, it's so one of the guys, he was telling me a story. It's a friend of mine, and I think he watched a little bit of the first the first one, and then he's like, "Yeah, I have to tell you the story." And he tells me the story about he was invited to this wedding between a Pakistani guy and a Palestinian girl. And he's like, I'm going to the wedding, and I asked the guy's name. And they told me the name. He's like, oh, that's a nice name. And they're like, yeah, we heard he's a Muslim, but he's from like a different like sect or something. They're like, oh, okay. What is he? They're like, oh, they say he's like a Ahmadi or a Qadiani or something. And he's like, he can't marry her. And he's like, anyway, the wedding happens, everything happens. And afterwards, the girl's family, I explained to them, or somebody explained to them, the Qadianis aren't really Muslim. And so she's messaging her sister, and she's getting these like really vague replies. And then one day she meets her sister, and she's like, "Hey, I've been messaging you, and you're sending me these like weird replies." She's like, "I never got a message from you." Come to find out that the husband was replying, and he was doing like the sort of a Qadiani apologist stuff where, no, you guys are misunderstanding and stuff like that. And I don't know what happened with that whole situation, but it was just like he plays his cards right to make sure that the girl's family doesn't really find out that what it really is. And I was who was I listening to? I don't remember who I was listening to, and they were talking about a Palestini guy. His grandfather had become Ahmadi somehow or another, and they got out of it. By the time it came to him, he had already gotten out of it. He's like, it's horrible. He's like, once they rope you in, they won't let you leave.
They
He's like
won't.
they like hold you hostage.
Hostage. And if you try to leave, they'll boycott you relentlessly. They see you as a dead rat. They in Rubwa, they'll sell your property. They'll make you get a divorce. You name it. You name it. They're gonna do it to you. In fact, the first Khalifa, his sons got kicked out of Ahmadiyya at Rubwa, and they all had to move out. So anyone could get hit, and these guys have paid off the police. So what are
So
you gonna
so
do
did
to them?
they leave Ahmadiyyat?
Yeah. Well, that's controversial. And one of them wrote a dictionary of the Holy Quran. I was like, why is this guy? He ended up being friendly with the Lahori Ahmadis.
Oh, I think they were mentioning that today, or in their speech whenever the guy gave the
Yeah,
speech.
Abdul Manan.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he represented the Lahoris at the 1974 in Pakistan. Like, why is he representing the Lahoris? I'd be over there like arrest the Khalifa, forget the a hearing.
Are the Lahoris almost done?
Almost pretty close to it. They have a temple in Germany, which was the
Oh,
first. I don't want to call it a Muslim, but it was dubbed as the first Muslim mosque in Germany. It's like a museum now.
really nice.
They had the Woking Masjid in the UK, which was the first masjid literally in the UK, and they
Is it
lost
still a masjid?
it. Yeah, Muslims took it back over in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, there's no Lahoris to pray there. You need somebody to pray in a masjid.
Yeah, well, in South America they're going good. In Suriname, in Fiji,
Who,
in
Lahoris?
Lahore, yeah.
Oh,
In
really?
in Pakistan, their headquarters is Lahore. In the Bay Area, that they have a mission house.
Oh,
I,
really? They do.
I've been trying to go to their mission house for years, trying to get in touch. Like I don't just want to show up on people, and pop up. I'm like, hey, can you come with me? You know what I mean? So
It's like I was messing with you. I was like, I wasn't messing with you at that time. I was asking you an honest question. Have you been to a Jalsa Salana? And I think you misunderstood whether I asked, "Did you go this year?" And you're
yeah,
like, "No." I was like, "No. Have you been in the past?" And you're like, "Oh, I've been to a few regional ones, and I've been to the national one, I think once."
yeah.
And what's it called? And I was like, I don't think they'd allow you back in now.
No, no, they call the cops immediately.
Are you pretty well known in the Ahmadi community now
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
of
yeah.
your
Especially in
outspoken?
California, they all know me in California. So that Reddit forum that I sent you, I've been banned like 10 times.
Oh, you've been banned. Okay. So,
they just
so
they just don't like me because I don't accept their persecution angle. I'm like, bro, it's a business thing. They've fooled everyone. Like Lance Armstrong, you remember? Lance Armstrong fooled the world
live
about his
strong.
steroids. He fooled everyone. So I don't let people fool me, and I'm not gonna let this tomfoolery, and I'm gonna accept that they're persecuted. I was persecuted worse than any MD in Pakistan. I was working 7 days a week, getting beat every day just because I questioned it. So
Mm,
I can never accept what these guys are talking because in Pakistan it's easy to be not persecuted. Stop going out and telling Muslims that they're kafir.
yeah.
Stop going out telling Muslims that Isa al-Islam is dead.
Yeah.
You're gonna start a fight,
Yeah.
and the way you're saying it is not cool, man. So if you go out looking for trouble, I have no sympathy on people who go out looking for trouble. Like so, today was the Warriors parade in San
Yeah.
Francisco. I didn't go because I know people are going to be getting robbed out there. You know what I mean? I just don't have time for it. I don't have time for the nonsense.
I
So I don't go into places. And plus I'm older. I'm in my 40s, so I'm
I
not.
when we first started messing, I watched a few of your videos, and you're like, I teach, and I'm like, oh, are you like a school teacher? He's like, no, I'm a tenured professor. I was like, bro, you look like you're like in your like maybe mid to late 20s. I was like, how are you a tenured professor? He's like, no, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, Allah, brother. Maybe Allah wants to keep me here for a long time to do this mission. And
I I think maybe switching out from Ahmadiyya made you look a little bit younger. All that pressure's off.
I don't know, no idea. I'll tell you what. I was married from age 25 to 35. I barely left the house. I just worked. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't even eat extravagantly. I eat basic food and I exercise, play a lot of basketball. I don't know.
Alhamdulillah.
That's literally the lifestyle for like the last 25 years. So, and I've gained weight. I gain weight. I lose weight. It just depends how much time I have to go and play and play basketball. And I used to do a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups. I was in the military, so
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I have no idea. And my brain will tell me, don't just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
Get up and go read some literature, and write some new articles. Like I have an insatiable thirst for information. So
So, brother, inshallah, we're gonna follow up and do a review of Jalsa Salana. I'm gonna watch some more videos, do a little bit more research, get some more content from you, and research this. And inshallah, we'll follow up. We'll decide on a day and do a follow up. And then, inshallah, I don't know if you're interested in during the towards the end of the Jalsa Salana portion, maybe shedding a little bit of light on the NOI and the relation with the Ahmadis. But inshallah, that will be for the next session because I think I've held you up long enough, and this will become incredibly long, inshallah,
right.
if we kept going. But jazakallah khair once again for your time. Inshallah, I'll follow up with you offline, and we'll decide on a date and a time that's comfortable for you, and inshallah, continue the discussion. I really appreciate your time, though.
Sounds good, brother. I love to do it. Um, I feel like I'm on a mission by Allah, and He's given me all the tools to do it.
Alhamdulillah.
So I'm just executing.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, brother. Inshallah, I'll follow up with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.